all felt it, haven't we? That kind of gnawing feeling deep down
Yeah.
when you see something that's just fundamentally wrong, you know, an injustice maybe, or someone being silenced.
Mm-hmm.
And there's often that little voice, that instinct almost, telling you to pull back, stay quiet, let it go.
Right. Stay safe.
But what if that feeling, that powerful, unsettling thing bubbling up, that anger, what if it's not something to just push down?
What if it's something else?
Exactly. What if it's actually, well, a holy fire? So that's what we're going to dig into today. This deep dive is all about exploring this, well, kind of radical idea that anger, which we usually see as, destructive,
Yeah.
can actually be a sacred emotion, something that stirs us up, makes us want to stand up, speak out, and act out of love.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission for you listening is to maybe start seeing anger differently, not as just a flaw, but maybe as a God-given thing that if we handle it right, if we channel it.
Process it properly.
Yeah, process it. It can actually spark love in action, build up these godly communities of resistance.
And the source we're looking at for this, it's really powerful stuff. We're pulling from excerpts of a sermon called Holy Fire, Anger, Resistance, and Love in Action.
Okay.
It's by Pastor Site Lynch, part of a bigger series on godly communities of resistance. And it's, grounded in Scripture, Jeremiah, Isaiah, but it speaks so directly to the stuff we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, feels timely.
Very timely. Gives us a sort of spiritual angle on navigating, well, our pretty fractured world.
And the core message, it sounds like it boils down to something really direct, like get angry, do good.
That's it. Simple but profound.
So we're going to explore how our anger, when it's not just about us getting slighted, but about things that break a higher purpose,
Yeah.
how that can actually morph into love in action.
And the sermon argues that kind of active love, it changes everything, really. It really does.
Yeah.
Because it has to start somewhere deep, right? The sermon sets out these two foundational principles for this whole resistance idea. First one, and this is, well, pretty radical, is that all people are God's beloved children. Like everyone.
Everyone.
Everyone. Created in God's image, inherently worthy, the whole deal. And what makes this so tough, especially now with all the hate flying around, is how inclusive it demands we be. The sermon literally says this includes Charlie Kirk and his supporters, and that includes all of those opposing him.
Wow. Okay. That's challenging.
Totally. It's presented almost like a mantra you have to repeat, a spiritual discipline, really.
Yeah.
To force yourself to see that worth in everyone, even the people you just fundamentally can't stand.
Because otherwise,
and the sermon argues resistance just becomes another us versus them, another tribe thing.
Right. So it's not about who feels deserving. It's about recognizing everyone starts from that beloved place. That's a big mental shift.
It is. And the second principle falls right on from that.
Yeah.
Faith isn't just, stuff you believe in your head. It's active. It moves you to try and make the world better. It's putting belief into practice, into action, out there in the community.
That's a powerful setup. Really challenging. And it kind of leads right into the big question the sermon asks us, doesn't it? What are we actually resisting today? What does that look like? Hashtag tag the deep dive.
The call to resist and the weight of our times.
Okay, so let's get into that. What does the sermon say we should be resisting? It's not just, evil vaguely. It gets specific.
Right. It does mention evil in all its forms, sure. But then it really zeroes in on white Christian nationalism disguised as patriotism and faith.
Okay, unpack that a bit. What's the sermon defining that as?
Well, it's careful to say it's not just patriotism. It's this specific ideology that kind of merges national identity with a very particular take on Christianity. Implying a kind of social hierarchy, often pushing for certain Christian values to be law, that sort of thing. But it also calls us to resist just, going along with oppression, even by being silent, that inaction piece.
Okay, silence as complicity.
Exactly. And maybe the biggest one, actively pushing back against that constant urge we have to divide people into us and them, rejecting what the source calls the gift of diversity. And that us and them thing, I mean, wow, it's everywhere, isn't it? The sermon points to this poll where they asked Americans, who's responsible for political violence, and overwhelmingly, from both sides, the answer was them.
So if you're on the left, it's Republicans, Trump supporters.
Right. And if you're on the right, it's Democrats, progressives. It shows this massive breakdown, right? We just blame the other. We don't even try to understand or see any shared humanity anymore.
Just pointing fingers across the divide.
Totally. We're stuck in our tribes.
It feels like we're losing the ability to just see each other as humans sometimes. And this call to resist, it feels really personal then. The sermon asks, flat out, do you really care enough to act?
Oof, yeah.
And then comes this amazing answer, like from God's perspective. I did. I created you and me. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for you listening.
Mm-hmm.
It's this powerful jolt, right? We're not just bystanders. We're part of the solution because we were made to be. There's this inherent responsibility baked in, this divine spark maybe,
Yeah.
pushing us toward justice. So, okay, remembering we have that purpose. Let's make it personal. What things make you angry? The sermon lists a bunch of stuff that I think resonates, just unfairness.
Yeah. Blatant injustice.
Demonizing people we don't get, mistreating the vulnerable, right?
Oh.
The least of these, as Jesus called them. Immigrants, the homeless, the poor, people struggling with mental illness or addiction.
All those groups often labeled as them, pushed
Yeah.
to the edges.
Yeah, it's that stuff that should light that fire, maybe.
And the sermon is really honest about how heavy this all feels. The pastor talks about one specific difficult week, mentioning the whole Charlie Kirk discourse.
Right.
And then right alongside that, 2 high school students shot in Colorado the very same day, plus the 24th anniversary of 9/11. It calls these, pretty bluntly, the latest manifestations of our deep societal sickness.
Wow, that's raw.
It is. It acknowledges how overwhelming it all is, the sheer volume of pain and division.
Absolutely. You can feel that collective weight. And it's no surprise that facing all that, so many of us just feel angry, yeah, but also maybe resigned, just exhausted, like we're up to our necks.
That phrase, up to our necks, is really potent. The sermon digs into Psalm 69, where it comes from.
Okay.
In the Hebrew, the word for neck there is niche. And while, yeah, it can mean your throat, it mostly means soul or life, your inner being, your core self, where emotions live.
So it's not just a little bit overwhelmed.
No. When the psalmist says, I'm sunk, the floods engulf me, I am up to my neck, it means their whole being, their soul is drowning in it. Utterly swamped by the feelings of the situation. It's deep.
Anger as a God-given emotion.
Yeah.
From scripture to action.
Okay, so that deep, like soul-level feeling, that complete saturation, that's what we're being told not to run from. Because this core idea in the sermon is kind of revolutionary, isn't it? Anger is God-given, and anger alone is not a sin.
Exactly. That distinction is vital. And the sermon backs it up with scripture. Think about Jesus clearing the temple, Matthew 21.
Yeah, flipping tables.
Right. But the sermon frames it not as just losing his temper, but as this physical display of holy, righteous anger. He confronted injustice, and crucially, the text says he didn't sin.
Okay.
Then you have Paul in Ephesians saying, be angry, but do not sin. So the message isn't don't feel angry. It's more like understand why you're angry, figure out if it's righteous, and then channel it well.
So anger itself can be okay, even moral.
Yes, but, and this is a huge but in the sermon, be real careful who's deciding whether it's righteous or not.
Because we always think our anger is justified.
Exactly. It's so easy to do that. Our anger is righteous, their anger is evil or crazy or whatever. We're biased.
So how do we know?
The guidance is, don't just trust yourself. Take it to God. Take it to others in our faith community. Get perspective. Get discernment. It needs humility, community wisdom to keep it holy fire and not just destructive fire.
I like that, taking anger into community, into prayer, not just letting it fester alone. And the sermon points us to Psalm 69 again, right? Calling it the psalm for suffering everywhere.
Yeah, that psalm is just brutally honest. It mirrors that up to our necks feeling. The psalmist is suffering, feels like it's because they're serving God. But interestingly, they also admit their own faults. Verses 4 and 5, they say something like, my wrongs aren't hidden from you.
So they're not claiming to be perfect.
Not at all. But they still cry out for vengeance against their enemies. They ask God to bring down judgment.
Okay.
It's what's called an imprecatory psalm, basically praying for bad things to happen to someone else.
Whoa. Okay. That feels uncomfortable.
It does. What's fascinating here is not just the raw honesty, which kind of challenges our neat, tidy ideas about prayer, but what it implies. It shows even those really dark, vengeful feelings can be brought before God, not just, stuffed down or acted on rashly. But here's the absolute key insight from Psalm 69 and really all those imprecatory psalms. Who are they asking? Right. They cry out to God for vengeance. They hand it over. They entrust the retribution to God. They don't go out and do it themselves. The message running through Scripture is loud and clear. Vengeance is the Lord's.
So it's not about not wanting justice,
Hmm.
but trusting God with the actual act of retribution.
Exactly. It's this profound act of trust, letting go of the need for personal payback, believing ultimate justice isn't actually ours to deliver, which is kind of freeing in a way, takes the burden off us.
Okay, so the lesson for us listening seems clear. Don't pretend you're not angry or frustrated or exhausted or even wanting justice now. Take all of that raw and messy to God. Leave it there.
Hmm.
Because God, the sermon reminds us, is big enough for all of it. We don't have to carry it alone. And maybe acting before we do that is where things go wrong.
And this process, this channeling and discernment, it matters because anger, when we get it right, is actually this powerful evolutionary tool. That's
Yeah.
how the sermon puts it.
An alarm system.
Yeah, exactly. It alerts us when things are unjust, and crucially, it gives us the energy to do something about it. When we harness that energy, let it fuel action instead of just reaction, it can lead to profound changes.
Like fighting racism?
Fighting racism, advocating for the environment, pushing back against dehumanizing language or policies. It's a powerful motivator for social good, not just, personal venting.
That reframes it completely. Anger as fuel for positive change. And speaking of tools, the sermon also tackles words, the power of words. It dismisses that old sticks and stones rhyme.
Oh, yeah. Calls it bunk, flat out.
Because
Words kill or can kill, literally. It talks about how demeaning words, the kinds of insults the psalmist faced, they can kill one emotionally and spiritually. Just erode your dignity, your self-worth. It's real harm, maybe even more insidious than physical harm sometimes.
love in action. Rehumanizing and taking the first step.
Okay, so we've felt anger, we've taken it to God, processed it. What's next? The sermon says after crying out, we need to get up from our knees and be more public with our speech.
Right. Time to move. From that internal work, that discernment, to external, visible action.
Purposeful action.
Exactly. And the sermon gives these powerful historical examples. Places where anger, channeled constructively, really did change things. Think about the civil rights movement.
Righteous anger driving massive change.
Absolutely. Fueled by anger against segregation, injustice, led to actual laws changing. Or the Vietnam War protests. More recently, think about the global reaction to George Floyd's murder.
Yeah.
That wasn't just quiet reflection. That was public outrage demanding justice, demanding change. And it did spark significant conversations and some action.
So what's the focus for a public speech or action, especially now? The sermon points to this huge problem, the dehumanization of people we don't like.
It's stark.
It says, we no longer have disagreements, we have war, we no longer debate people, we hate them and demean them and dehumanize them, and it's got to stop.
Wow.
That is not Christian, period. Full stop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about as clear as it gets, right? A call to rehumanize everyone, to fight that trend.
And this loops back again to Jesus in the temple, Matthew 21. The sermon gives it this deeper layer if we connect this to the bigger picture.
It wasn't just about money changing.
Not primarily,
Yeah.
according to this interpretation. It was about hypocrisy. People using religion, the temple space, as a kind of hideout, a cover,
A cover for what?
for justifying the injustice and oppression they were doing the rest of the week. They turned a place meant to be a house of prayer for all people, key phrase, all people, into a den of robbers, people who exploited the vulnerable, not just with money, but socially, spiritually, playing church, basically, while hurting others, using faith to exclude.
And we see modern versions of that, sadly. The sermon mentions churches misplacing priorities, protecting the building or their own comfort instead of loving people who are hurting.
Yeah, it gives specific examples. An Atlanta church putting up fences against the homeless. A church in Tucker chaining off its parking lot so high school kids couldn't wait there safely.
Ouch. Those are vivid examples of building walls instead of bridges, prioritizing property over people.
Exactly. And these examples set up the need for what the sermon envisions as the Trinity Church of the Misfits.
Okay, tell me about that. Sounds intriguing.
It's this really powerful image, creating a sanctuary for misfit persons. People who just don't fit the mold, politically, religiously, socially, whatever. The call isn't just be welcoming if they show up. It's intentionally seek out the misfits and outcasts and flip over the tables of whatever's keeping them out.
So it's active. Disruptive, even.
Very active. Dismantling barriers, making space deliberately for the marginalized. Imagine a place where you belong, just because you are, not because you fit in or earned it, just because you're beloved.
So how do we, in our regular lives, how do we flip over tables? How do we do this rehumanizing work? The sermon offers practical ideas, right?
It does. Things like maybe a campaign of just intentional kindness, nonviolent protest when you see injustice, advocating for policy changes,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe the most powerful and the most immediate
Yeah.
is impacting your own circles of influence. Your friends, family, neighbors, colleagues, just consciously deciding to live out that golden rule. Treat other human beings the way we would like to be treated. It sounds simple, but actually doing it, especially with people we find difficult, that's huge. It starts there.
Mm.
And just to show how real this need is, the pastor actually shares this personal bit about feeling like a religious and theological misfit themselves.
Really?
Yeah, especially in this post-evangelical world where evangelical doesn't just mean one thing anymore. It often gets tied up with specific politics. It just highlights how many people feel spiritually adrift, looking for a place that accepts them, misfits and all. It shows that even the people calling for this understand what it feels like to be on the outside looking in.
That makes it really relatable. So many people feel that way, I think. Spiritually homeless, almost. And for you listening, if you're feeling that overwhelm, that exhaustion we talked about, the immediate next step offered by the sermon is actually quite simple and empowering.
What is it?
Take your feelings to God. Ask God what God has for you to do, what action God has for you to take today to influence your circle of influence. Just that. Not save the world, just the next step, your step, today. Hashtag tag tag outro. So what does this all mean? As we wrap up this deep dive, we've kind of journeyed through this idea that anger, which we often fear or dismiss, might actually be this sacred spark. If we process it, discern it, channel it right, it can fuel resistance to injustice, and more than that, fuel real transformative love in action. It's a big shift in how we might think about our own strong emotions.
It really is. And the sermon leaves us with a couple of powerful thoughts to take away. One from Richard Foster. Each activity of daily life in which we stretch ourselves on behalf of others is a prayer in action.
Oh, I like that. Everyday actions as prayer.
Yeah. And then, of course, Dr. King, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step.
So maybe the thought to leave you with is this. If anger truly is a God-given emotion, how could recognizing that and learning to channel it ethically empower you? Empower you to see the injustices maybe you've missed, to push back against dehumanization, to do that hard, necessary rehumanizing work our world needs. Get angry, do good, take that first step,